4:01 on Wednesday, November 15th. Thank you for everyone joining us this afternoon. Now we can go ahead and get started with roll call. Everyone, Kennedy will go ahead and call on you. And when she does, please state your name, position on the commission, and where you're zooming in from today. Thank you.
Oh, I apologize about that. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and do roll call. Vice Chair Keeler.
Here from calling in from Ann Arbor.
Chair Damon.
Hi, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Zach Damon, Chairman, and I am coming to you from Ann Arbor, Michigan, Washtenaw County.
Commissioner Mozak.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathleen Mozak. I'm calling in from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I am a commissioner.
Commissioner Solomon.
Matthew Solomon, Commissioner, Ann Arbor, Washtenaw County, USA.
Commissioner Hawkins. Commissioner Poster. Commissioner Gossage.
Hi, everybody. Alex Gossage, Commissioner, calling in from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Commissioner, I'm so sorry. It's in my way. City Council Member Godzi Edwin. Okay. Commissioner Ratcliffe.
Present. Commissioner Ratcliffe, calling in from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Commissioner Packard.
Yes, I'm right here, calling from Ann Arbor.
And Commissioner Chambers.
Hello, I am Elena Chambers calling in from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay, we have quorum.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Kennedy. Next, I would like to move.
Public comment.
Yes, really quick to public comment.
Do we have anyone here for public comment?
I believe Kathleen would like to make a public comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner
Thank
Mozak.
you. Thank you very much for your time. I just wanted to take this moment to let everyone know that there is a local advisory council that is attached to the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority. They're looking for members and executive committee members. They meet the second Tuesday of every month. They are currently meeting via Zoom from 1:30 to 3 p.m. However, they are considering possibly meeting bi-monthly, but that has not been decided. If you want more information, you can go to theride.org. You click on leadership, and at the bottom of the page, it describes the local advisory council. It has their bylaws and everything listed. And there's also a place to click on how to email them, or you can call for more information at 734-973-6500. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Mozak, did you want me to put that on the minutes under communication?
That would be perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much.
Hey, Kennedy, I just had a quick question. Because I just want to make sure that this meeting is fully accessible, but I didn't see any pop-up for closed caption. Do we know if that's active right now?
It's working. It's showing up on my end.
Okay, thank you.
Do
Appreciate
you see it at the bottom?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Yep. All right. All right. Next, we have the approval of today's agenda. So everyone should have received an electronic copy of today's agenda for review. I would just like to open it up if there are any corrections that need to be made. If there are no corrections, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Kathleen. I will move to approve.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I did.
Thank you, Larry.
Vice Chair.
Okay. Vice Chairman Keeler seconds. All in favor of approving today's agenda, if you could unmute, please, and say aye.
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 All right, thank you very much. Today's agenda has been approved. Next, I would like to move down to the approval of the meeting minutes from October. As usual, the meeting minutes are also on the agenda. Please take a moment to mention at this time if there are any corrections to those meeting minutes. If there are not, I would like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October.
This is Commissioner Mozak. I'll go ahead and move to approve those.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Commissioner Ratcliffe.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ratcliffe. I'm all in favor of approving the meeting minutes from the October meeting. If you could please unmute and say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. All right. Next, I'd like to move down to our special presentation portion of the agenda, and I would like to welcome Jada and her team at the Downtown Development Authority for all the work that they've been doing in making sure that the commission, is informed on what they're doing. And, with that, I will turn it over to Jada and the Downtown Development Authority for their presentation. Before they start, I would like to let all of you know that I will open it up for Q&A after that, but depending on the length of the responses, we may have to move forward on that, if it exceeds a certain amount of time, but I will open it up to a couple of questions after the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, my name is Jada Halbrack. I'm the parking manager at the Ann Arbor DDA and very happy to be here today. Kennedy, are you able to tell me if my colleagues from Walker are on the call? Chrissy Mancini Nichols is going to be leading the presentation today.
Yes, she is on the call.
Okay, thank you.
And
so
she has her hand up.
Okay, I have a very brief introduction, and then I'm going to be turning it over to her, and she can share her screen and talk through the presentation, if that's okay.
Yep, that's perfectly good. Yep.
Great. Welcome,
So,
Chrissy.
thank you again for having us here. We attended one of your meetings maybe a little over a year ago as our study got underway, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you again. As I said, I want to leave plenty of time for Chrissy and Jim to do their presentation, but I thought it might be helpful to share a bit of information, kind of high-level information. And if you're seeing Chrissy's screen now, you might be seeing a slide about the parking system. But again, this is just some high-level information for you to have in mind as you learn more about our study. The DDA.
Excuse me, Jada.
Yes.
We don't. Excuse me, Jada. I didn't mean to interrupt. We don't see anything as of yet. So I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to make sure that everyone can see everything first.
Oh, okay. Well, looks like Chrissy's getting it set up. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Chrissy. So the DDA manages, operates, and maintains the public parking system through an agreement with the city of Ann Arbor. The parking facilities are city assets. We manage them in support of city and DDA goals and values, and in general, towards a vital and a vibrant downtown. The parking system is self-sustaining system, so the revenues produced in the parking system pay for the system, and those revenues also support other transportation elements. A good example would be the Go Pass, that is funded through the parking revenue. Next slide, Chrissy. 20% of parking revenue goes back to the city, to the general fund. And then separate from our management of the parking, the city manages and receives revenue from parking enforcement and the residential parking program. So I just kind of wanted to set the stage a little bit and make sure we all kind of understood the different roles and responsibilities. So I will turn it over to Chrissy now. Thank you.
Chris, yeah, we don't hear
Okay,
anything.
can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. I'm just gonna. Alrighty. All right, thanks Jada again, and hi everyone. My name is Chrissy Mancini with Walker Consultants, and I'm joined by my colleague Jim Corbett. And we've been working with Jada and her team at the DDA on the curb management study. And we just wanted to start out by saying, thanks for having us. We've been looking at curb management in the DDA area downtown, and what we're seeing is really when we think about best practices and working with cities across the country, Ann Arbor really has achieved many of the best practices we want to see for our streets and our curb space. Bringing more access to people, walking, biking, increasing safety, increasing accessibility. Pretty much Ann Arbor's become, one of the best practices that we talk about. So just want to highlight that at the beginning of the study. And why that matters is, we don't look at the curb space as just a piece of concrete. What we do and how we prioritize curb space can support lots of different goals for climate, for transportation, for the People-Friendly Streets program. So that's why, it's so important today to talk through this study and talk with you and get your feedback. So first off, we collected data to understand how the curbs are used downtown. And we collected data on Liberty Street in Carytown, and then areas around South University and Forest near the university. And what we found overall was that, the curb is highly utilized. There's a lot of access happening, but that parking meters, there's a high utilization when parking meters are not enforced. So that's throwing some peak times off balance, and you're unable to manage some of these peak times of curb use. Most of the curb sessions and parking sessions are very short term, less than 15 minutes, even less than 5 minutes. So, that's a significant finding, but also something we're seeing across the country with so much online shopping and fast casual food pickup and delivery. There's a lot of these very short-term sessions. Also, people are parking everywhere at the curb, no matter if it's regulated for parking or no parking. Essentially, if it's an alley, if it's a driveway, people are just trying to find a space because they have these very short sessions and they're just parking, getting in and out, trying not to get that ticket. But that gets into, there's a significant amount of curb violations occurring. And when we talk about curb violations, we collected data using cameras. So we saw everything that was going on. And this does not include curb tickets or parking tickets for overstaying a meter. This is just what our camera showed in terms of people parking in spaces not regulated for parking. So for example, 20% in the South University study area, almost 20% of all the curb sessions were violations. That's about 100 per day. That's a significant amount of people, that causes conflict. It decreases access to business, things that we care about for the vitality of downtown. And those violations had a median duration of only 4 minutes, so really challenging to enforce. So, that's what we want to talk through when we show you the data. And then overall, we are defining some areas around downtown into typology. So, you have your dense residential, fast casual areas with a lot of dense retail and restaurants, like a Main Street or Liberty or Forest. Then, more neighborhoody commercial type areas like Carytown. And then there's the areas outside of dense residential which have mostly the single family homes and duplexes. What we want to talk about here is, there's a need for short-term spaces. There's a need to move longer-term parking to garages, thinking about increasing meter rates or expanding meter times. But, when we talk about removing parking, we really appreciate the nuance that, some people have to drive and park. So it's not either or. If we want to build a bike lane, if you want to build a transit lane, we're really thinking about, well, where's the parking spillover going to go? How do we maintain access to business and access to everyone that needs to arrive, no matter, their travel mode? So, thinking through that nuance is really important for, providing access to all of these locations. So just getting into the data quickly. So here you can see in Carytown and Liberty Street, 60% of all the curb sessions were less than 15 minutes, very short sessions, steady peaks throughout the day, almost to 8 p.m. And then, you can see this red circle here is when the meters aren't enforced. There's still a pretty high peak of people parking at that time. And then you can see we looked at the meter transaction data compared to what our camera data showed in actual curb use. And you can see this arrow is pointing to the gap of the people that are paying for meters versus actually using the curb space for parking. So, that's significant because, people aren't adhering to the regulation. Again, they're all very short sessions, so people are either trying to avoid paying the meter and hoping they get away with it, not unlike many cities. In the university study area, again, about 2/3 of vehicles were parking for less than 15 minutes. And you can see 20% of all the curb sessions were under 2 minutes. So, just very short-term stays. Again, like steady flow of occupancy throughout the day. And again, in the South University study area, you can see that circle that highlights a peak time of parking when the meters aren't enforced. And again, a big gap between parking meter payments and curb uses. So, people aren't paying that meter because they're parking for only a few minutes and trying to get away, not have to pay the meter. And if you look at it on a map, we talked about that areas of no parking are still functioning as parking. So this is Liberty Street. You can see there's a side of the street that has 2-hour parking, a side with no parking. These dots are curb sessions. It's essentially operating the same way. This area right here has there's a Starbucks on the corner. Essentially these are all, 1 to 5 minute curb stays, people just running in to get coffee, in this no parking zone on the south side of Liberty. And, that it's just essentially, no matter the regulation, it's operating effectively as parking. And you can see that, in Carytown too, there's a no parking. This is the 500 block of North 5th, a no parking area that's operating as parking. But you can also see there's a 15-minute curb here, and people are largely adhering to that regulation, mostly because the stays are very short-term sessions. So, that enables a lot of turnover. And then same thing in South University area. This is the 1200 block of South University. And to note here, there's over 1,500 curb sessions that we viewed during our study period, which was a week. And that just shows it's just a high amount of access being provided on the street to businesses. But again, just a lot of turnover, a lot of parking in front of the driveway, at the crosswalk, things that we want to avoid for safety reasons. So that gets into our recommendations for the study. We do need to reform some of the parking rates, have more short-term spaces, update enforcement hours, develop standards for loading and ADA, have a more, think through a more modernized enforcement strategy. It's very challenging to enforce some of these short-term sessions because there's so many of them with the traditional ways that we've enforced parking and curb use. And, this is not unique to Ann Arbor. We're seeing this all over the country. So developing a more modern enforcement strategy. And then, over the long term, things like package lockers, more data collection, more paid users. I'm thinking about charging for all users of the curb, not just parking. And happy to answer any more details on the recommendations during Q&A. And one thing we did want to mention is that an ADA standard for newly constructed streets where it's feasible. There's a new US DOT, the PROAG, proposed public right-of-way accessibility guidelines will be coming out. And the recommended ADA parking spaces for on-street, this is new. There's always been an ADA requirement for off-street, but there hasn't been one for the on-street spaces. So, the new requirement is one accessible space for every 25 spaces for those newly constructed streets, where it's feasible. So, that's what, we would recommend as part of the study. And this is an example of, just how the DDA and the city are, really thinking through some of these curb treatments. This is an example of how a recommendation would play out is the William Street Bikeway. The William Street Bikeway was previously a travel lane and a parking lane. It was moved into a separated bikeway, removed 16 parking spaces, but maintained parking on one side of the street because, we know that people are, still need access to some of those businesses with parking. But then, what contributed to the success of this bikeway? There's, a significant amount of bikes traveling on the William Street Bikeway every day. It's thinking through the spillover, like where can we maintain ADA parking nearby? Where can we relocate short-term parking zones? Keeping, parking on one side of the street, like I said, and then just taking that iterative approach for managing the bike lane. It started out with just delineators to deter illegal parking, and then observations showed that people were still parking in the bike lane. So that's now going to move to concrete curbs to prevent that illegal parking. So, this is just, it'll be a constant iterative process of testing, data collection, managing those spillover and thinking through that nuance of, who needs access to the curb and how do you provide it. So with that, can answer any questions you might have and
Thank you so much, Chrissy, for that presentation, and Jada as well. A lot of interesting points. One thing I wanted to quickly mention is that I noticed a lot of individuals with that activity that you mentioned earlier, and I believe it's mainly DoorDash drivers and things of that sort that are kind of, doing those things, including residents. I'm curious, really quick. It's probably undetectable to really know, whether those individuals are DoorDash drivers and, what their specificity is in terms of who they are and what they're doing. But I just thought that was interesting. But it looks like we have a few questions. So I'll start with Commissioner Solomon.
Hi. So I have to begin with some disappointment that this presentation wasn't a little more tailored to the needs of the disability community, because we, as you can imagine, are less concerned about issues of revenue shortfall and enforcement than we are about issues of accessibility. So I was just very surprised of how little data you were presenting about disabled parking specifically, whether that 1 out of 25 is sufficient, how many of the violations are unlawful parking in disability spaces. So it just felt like a complete afterthought, what our main concern is. So I'm curious, was any data gathered? And I have a follow-up question about bike lanes, but I'd like to know to what extent disabled parking and the needs of the disability community were a concern. Again, we're not interested in enforcement and revenue collection on this body.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a major concern in thinking through these trade-offs of, there's often a push to remove parking, but we want to maintain that we need to have ADA parking and keep those spaces in place. We collected one of the study areas, we did collect some data on different ADA parking spaces. We weren't looking specifically if the parker had a placard, but we did some observations around that. Just because the camera data can't see inside the vehicle, so we did some observations around placards and use. But I think that's why we're here today. The study is not final, so we definitely are here to get your input. In terms of the PROAG requirements, those are new USDOT requirements. So, we want to adhere to those standards, but, want to understand your input or, challenges you're seeing, safety concerns. So that
I think we need a lot more data, and we need to know whether 1 out of 25 is sufficient for our community. I don't think this body is just about compliance. This body is about accessibility. So I think it's very important that you recenter this study to really think about whether or not that is enough spaces. Are people parking unlawfully and blocking disabled access through unlawful parking? How is that enforcement taking place? People without placards. And then the issue of whether bike lanes are negatively impacting accessibility for the disability community. Those should be data points that are generated by this study. That's my plea. That's my insistence.
Matthew, this is Jada speaking, and I just wanted to say that it certainly was not an afterthought on our part. And one thing that we learned through this study is that the data is difficult to collect and analyze. We had cameras mounted and then a firm to analyze that. So we're working through internally kind of what our measurements, what our data collection processes look like so we can fine tune it a bit more. But, as Chrissy mentioned, kind of overall short-term use at the curb, we know is spilling over into things like crosswalks or ADA spaces. So we're hoping that a lot of our work to add short-term spaces, work with our partners at the city about enforcement will help to alleviate some of that bad behavior. But please know it was not an afterthought, and we continue to refine, how we collect data around curb use.
One thought would be to collect specific data on unlawful parking in disabled spots. Who is parking without a placard? That is the data that we need to know, because that's going to help us figure out if 1 out of 25 is enough, or whether in fact there needs to be more disabled parking. So without that data, we're unable to make a judgment. We're not unable to advocate for different legislation. So I would plead for you to make that a data collection goal.
Certainly, and we'll keep that in mind as we continue our conversations with enforcement and see what data they have in their system already. Thank you.
Commissioner Mozak?
Excuse me 1 second. I just wanted to make one quick comment. Thank you, Commissioner Solomon. And, as you make those adjustments, I encourage you to come present again, those findings and the adjustments that you make so that we can see that data. Commissioner Mozak, pardon me for interrupting. Kennedy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for this presentation. I echo a lot of what Mr. Solomon shared, and I want to piggyback on that, especially when it comes to, you're calling them ADA spots, but really they're accessible spots. And my concern specifically is 1 in 25 doesn't seem to be enough, especially with our aging population that we have here. Everyone it's hard enough to get a spot, say at Meyer, during peak hours because and they have a ton of disability spots available. But my main concern is when you're saying accessible spots, are you taking into account van accessible spots, people who have ramps or lifts that would need to use those spots and access the sidewalk? If 1 in 25 is just a handicap accessible spot, but it's not a van accessible spot, then how many van accessible spots are you going to, is it 1 in 100? I don't understand.
Well, there's not clear guidance on from like federal regulations right now on the van accessible spots for on-street parking, but that's something that we want to look more locally and figure out how that fits into the 1 in 25 or whatever the standard is. So I think Jaden and our team can talk more about, again, the data collection practices that we've been trying to refine and figure out what that right number is. Because, yeah, I mean, it's not just car accessible. Van accessibility is obviously a standard we need to figure out. So
yeah, and Kathleen, if I may, I remember when we were here last time, that was something that perhaps you or another commissioner brought up about kind of interferences on the sidewalk side. And, some of this is us thinking about where we have our own authority to act and where we need to work with, our partners at the city. But certainly we know there's a lot happening on the sidewalk side as well that needs to be considered when placing those spaces.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Hawkins.
Hi, this is Rachel Hawkins. I just want to contribute to the discussion in terms of something that Zach had said. Just knowing that specific block very well, what I've tended to see is a lot of times they are DoorDash drivers, usually dropping off for Tower Plaza, which is a lot of units. And so they'll pull, they have a parking lot behind Tower Plaza, but they will pull halfway into the driveway, cutting off the access to the bike lane and going onto the sidewalk. So I feel like that seems to be a super common problem. So I know that doesn't even really speak to the questions about like the accessible parking spots and how many of them are wheelchair accessible. But just wanted to mention that as well, because that can become a real safety hazard when you have bikes coming up and down the lanes where they're trying to have to go around a car that's literally in the bike lane.
Thank you. Commissioner Packard.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Rob Packard. Thanks for the attention on the bike lanes. I don't know if there's any way to calculate how many disabled parking spots are eliminated or in general for that. I'm curious how you're able to compile like a handicap parking violations, if it's from looking at ticketing, or you said you did camera work to try and search for how often people who shouldn't be parking there are there. And if there's anything we can do to help, I don't know, maybe if we ever try to park and notice that it's a violation ourselves, it has to be a tough job to get an accurate number on that.
And yeah, so what I will do is work with enforcement to try and get that data, see what data they have available. Like Jada said, we're developing a data collection strategy to have more robust data information. So that, that's something that, we'll try and track to see what violations are occurring in those spaces. So that we have a number and understand how that would impact a standard.
Do you know
Great.
how long the study will continue?
Well, we're going through, we're talking to, you and the Transportation Commission, getting feedback. So, we're going to take this feedback and then work as a team again to refine our strategies and looking to have something out early next year.
If I can just add one comment about that. So you'll see us kind of wrap up, what we're working on now. But of course, this is like a living, breathing, study in a way. We'll kind of summarize our findings and start working on our toolkits and that sort of thing that we'll have to work from. But, as the city and, circulation study and other planning happens, I mean, this is something that we're going to be constantly revisiting. So if you hear or see some documents that appear to be final, please know that, I mean, we know this is an ongoing process, around managing access at the curb.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chrissy and Jada, for those statements. And I really look forward to the follow up on that and the focus, of ADA and how that relates. I'm gonna call on Commissioner Radcliffe, and that will be our final question. I'm so sorry because I know we'll have to move on, but Commissioner Radcliffe.
Well, I guess first of all, want to echo what the other commissioners have said, but I'd also like to add that, when there is a guidance from the federal government, that's typically like a bare minimum standard. We can go above that and should, depending on the city's needs. And also, would like to suggest that sometime where I've lived in the past, cities, when they've kind of gotten stumped on a federal guidance or couldn't find something, that particular department from the federal government has people there to assist with technical assistance. And in the past, they've been really good about that, like working through the individual situation within a municipality, as well as, based on the broad knowledge that they have. And so that might be something to look towards doing as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Radcliffe. And Jada and Chrissy, I just want to also state that, if there are commissioners that have, other things that they want to continue to bring up with you, or, members of our commission that want to, help you gather some other data or have you guys answer some other questions, do we have the privilege of reaching out to you to get further information?
Certainly. I plan on sending Chrissy's presentation and I will include my contact information, and happy to connect with anybody at any time about this.
Wonderful. So I encourage anyone who has any questions that was not able to ask any questions today or get any valid answers. Jada, thank you. Once you and Chrissy follow up, I will definitely get that information to our commissioners, and hopefully our commissioners then can follow up and then keep myself and the rest of us informed on what is talked about. But I want to thank both of you for presenting this afternoon.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Next on our presentations, I would like to move forward with the Washtenaw Library for the Blind and Physically Disabled and Katie Monkevich. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, thanks everybody for having me. Happy to be here as usual. I just have a couple of things to share with you today. We have some upcoming events coming up at the library. we have a winter coat swap. This is going to be happening on Sunday, November 19th from 2 to 3:30 p.m. at the downtown library in our multi-purpose room. So if you're looking for a new winter coat, come by and try on and pick up a new to you coat. You do not need to bring anything in order to pick up a coat. And the library will be accepting coats and jackets at all locations until November 17th. So you've got about 2 more days if you would like to make a donation. Please make sure that items are in good condition and freshly laundered. And we are not accepting items the day of that event, only prior to. We also have a mental fitness workout and workshop called Unlocking Your Full Potential. This is also on Sunday, November 19th. This will be from 3 to 4:30 p.m. at the Westgate branch. Are you constantly experiencing stress, burnout, anxiety, beating yourself up for mistakes, fixated on what might happen if you fail? More than likely, your saboteurs or mental stoppers are running the show and your mental fitness is running weak. Mental fitness is your way of experiencing and creating your life. In this workshop, we will unlock new self-discoveries that will increase your inner power, connection, and inner peace. You will leave with practical tips and tools to recover from stress, overthinking, feeling stuck, and to strengthen your agility to create with each moment rather than letting the moment create you. And the library intends to provide a live stream of this event. We're just pending the presenter's permission. So if you check back closer to the event on our website, we are hoping to have a link up so that you can watch this not in person if that is more comfortable. And now I'll talk about some materials. So as usual, the Washtenaw Library for the Blind and Print Disabled patrons can order digital cartridges and other materials by calling us at 734-327-4224, or you can email us at wlbpd@aadl.org. You can sign up for the Braille and audio reading service, Bard to download your own books. No waiting. You can visit nlsbard.loc.gov to do that, or you can call us and we can help you with the application. Got a couple new books that I'm highlighting that you can find on Bard. One is called You Don't Have to Carry It All, Ditch the Mom Guilt and Find a Better Way Forward by Paula Ferris. Being a working mom should work. Instead, it is a thankless, incredibly difficult job marked by impossible contradictions and unreachable expectations. American moms are more burned out now than at any other time in history. We believed we could have it all, fulfilling work and a healthy and happy family. We pick up responsibilities wherever we go, on the job, at home, and in our communities. We try to carry it all, and we can, because moms are superheroes with superpowers. But at some point, our shoulders grow tired from carrying around the expectations and the mental load, tired from juggling the constant conflict between working and momming, tired of how our work, whether at the home or at office, isn't valued equally, and tired of workplaces that treat us like risks instead of assets. Paula Ferris offers a declaration of hope to all working moms. Things are going to get better. And finally, Iris Grace, How Thula the Cat Saved a Little Girl and Her Family by Arabella Carter Johnson. Iris Grace is a beautiful little girl who, from a very young age, barely communicated, avoided social interaction with other people, and rarely smiled. Both before her diagnosis of autism and after, she seemed trapped in her own world, unable to connect with those around her. One day, her mother brought home a Maine Coon kitten for Iris. Thula immediately bonded with Iris, knowing right away how to assuage Iris when she became overstimulated, when to intervene when Iris became overwhelmed, and how to provide distraction when Iris started heading towards a meltdown. With Thula's companionship, Iris began to talk and interact with her family. Inspiring and touching, Iris Grace follows the struggles and triumphs of a family and a miracle cat as they learn to connect with an amazing child. And that is all I have for you folks today. Does anybody have any comments or questions for me?
I don't have anything at this time. Anybody else?
Okay, well, it's good to see you all as usual, and you have an excellent day. I'll see you later.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie, and thank you to everyone at the Ann Arbor Library for all the work that they do. Appreciate it. All right. Next, we have the Disability Network Washtenaw, Monroe, and Livingston report with Andrea.
This is Alex, everybody. Hi. Andrea is not joining with us today, but hopefully she'll be joining with us again next month. Kennedy, if you could please double check that she's receiving the meeting updates and things, I would appreciate it. I'm not sure that she is. And I just didn't want to spring this on her today, so I thought I would cover some of our updates.
For sure. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, no problem. A couple things I did want to make sure I highlighted that we have coming up. Right now, we're doing a call for artists for a holiday pop-up art market. The market would be Saturday, December 9th from 12 to 5 at our office, 3941 Research Park Drive in Ann Arbor. Basically, it's, as I said, it's an artists market. So we're hoping to gather disabled artists from around the area who are looking to maybe sell some things that they've been working on prior to the holiday season, as well as gathering folks who are looking for such things. If anybody is interested, they can reach out to Claire for more information, questions, RSVPs, etc. Claire's email address is claire@dnwml.org. So again, that's one of the main things we have coming up. We are continuing with a lot of our classes and other activities through the end of the calendar year here. Delishability, our cooking class, is on hiatus right now until January. Art programming is continuing after the Thanksgiving holiday. So for the month of December, there'll be classes going on then. Art classes typically take place on Mondays from 1:30 to 3:30 at the Ann Arbor office. There's also time for open studio on Wednesdays from 10 to 12. And there's online open studio on Thursdays from 1:30 to 3. So that is continuing. Looks like we are. One other place I did want to mention for everybody that might be of interest to folks. There is a program that various centers for independent living have helped to run over the years. It's called PASSREP. It's Personal Assistant Services Reimbursement Employment Program. It's a program that is available to eligible individuals with significant disabilities who are employed and are receiving at least 24 hours of work a week. These individuals, if they are eligible, could potentially receive up to $1,000 per month in reimbursement after they have paid out their personal care assistance. If individuals are interested in learning more about this program, I'd be happy to send along information after the meeting today, but they can go to Disability Network Mid-Michigan's website, which is www.dnmm.org. So again, for folks who are looking possibly for resources to help them pay for personal care assistance, this is a great program. They are finally, after some time, able to take some new participants on board, and we would love to see that program, not only full, but also looking for there to be more people who are on a waiting list, so that we can continue to push and advocate for more funding for this and other programs that are paying for personal care assistant services. And I think that is what I will share out with today. As always, though, folks are welcome to give us a call for questions, 734-971-0277. They can also visit our website and including our calendar at www.dnwml.org. That's what I've got for today.
Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate the information about the PASSREP program too. That's pretty awesome, and I'll definitely follow up with you on some of those things for sure. Really appreciate everything that you're doing, and Yeah, I will make sure that we get Andrea added so that that she's informed and stuff too. So thank you for that reminder. Absolutely, and thank you to Disability Network, Washington Monroe Livingston for all the great things that you guys do. For everyone watching, if you guys are an artist, and want to be able to participate, in that art show, please feel free. Thank you. Next, I want to move on to PIA. I know that, do we know, did the P Partners and Access Committee, did they meet last
We did not. I didn't hear from Rachel till later, but I thought I saw something from you, but I'm not really sure. But I had a medical thing go on, and nobody brought any concerns to my attention at that point.
Okay. Okay. So
So we will have it next month.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. Then we can move on to community engagement with Rachel Hawkins. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, Zach. So it's Commissioner Hawkins here. Just have an update from Ann Arbor Inclusive. They said they are officially back, so that is quite exciting. Their last episode they had filmed was actually with our own Alex Gossage, talking about the Disability Network, and that's now currently on YouTube for the past week. So they're also working on a partnership to see if they can return to monthly recordings in the beginning of January. So they hope if that works out that they'll be able to go back to having monthly videos.
Cool. Wonderful work. And Alex, I have no doubt that you held it down in the studio, and I look forward to seeing that episode. Absolutely. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you to everyone with Ann Arbor Inclusive, Tom Holtland, Linda Evans, CTN of Ann Arbor, doing a great job with that show. Absolutely. So thank you all. All right. Next, we have the Transportation Mission update with Larry Keeler.
Okay, usually the recruiting one comes first. But,
Yeah. Sorry, I messed up. It's recruitment first. My apologies.
But I can do them both.
Okay, so let's do the activity, please. Thank you.
For the recruiting, we're doing good. We have one spot, and we have an interview coming up later this month to possibly send another candidate to the commission in December. I'm guessing if this interview goes right. And I think that's it. I think there's another guy that's still interested, but he's apparently lost his application, so don't know how that's going to work. So far we're working good, and looks like it could possibly be a full commission next year, possibly. And that's it for that.
Okay, thank you, Larry. And then the Transportation Commission update, please.
All right, we met after the last meeting on the 18th of October, and the Transportation Commission, they were basically working on getting the resolutions set up for the lane reducing areas in Ann Arbor, and they were working on broadening it. So they were working on broadening the definition and broadening what they do, and we were talking. Of course, there was more on road diets and much discussion, but the resolution passed. And there was a presentation from PEAC, which I forget what it is, but I've got it. It was from Detroit, from the Detroit area, and it was people gave an interesting cognitive. They had cognitive disorders, and they gave an interesting presentation on transportation and how difficult or easy it is to take transportation, how the it didn't have a lot to do with Ann Arbor, but I found it interesting that they were getting people with cognitive disabilities to be able to have a voice in you know, the transportation issues. And then and a lot of the other work was for the end of the year resolutions that are put back in and to come back in the spring for, you know, a lot of the road construction. And there was and it's trying to make 23 safe passed. And what they want to do is try to decrease it a couple, to 2 lanes coming through town, and that passed, or, you know, coming where it comes through on between Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti. They wanted to cut it. They want to cut it down to 2 lanes. And there was also still more discussion going on putting fences near the train tracks. And then I finally brought up our concerns about, you know, our concerns about the bike lanes and the sidewalk issues that we had. I brought up those concerns, and then the other thing I have is the ATA is going to going to introduce some of their green buses and show them off. And I also want to thank Christy and Jada for their report. I think I've heard their report before about curb usage, and I believe I commented then, but I will keep commenting. If they're presenting tonight, I'll comment again about some of our concerns about the parking spaces and the you know, about finding more parking spaces with people with disabilities. And also I'm going to look at bike lanes, and I'm going to look at I'll talk about where they're taking out curbs. In some places, the other issue I have is they're taking out curbs, and it will become more difficult for visually impaired people, especially, to find out, have we wandered into the street, or are we still on the sidewalk? And that seems to be a trend of taking out the curbs downtown, especially among State Street. So that's it for my report.
Thank you, Larry. I do appreciate it. Absolutely. And yeah, if you find anything out from DDA, please keep us informed, okay?
I will. Oh, I will. I'll keep bugging them, and I'll make sure that they keep the ADA and people with disabilities in mind when they're doing this.
Absolutely. That's paramount.
That's what we're here for, man.
Yep. All right. Next, we have the U of M Council for Disability Concerns meeting update with Commissioner Solomon. Matthew, the floor is yours.
So thank you. The council met yesterday, and most of the presentation was taken up by a presentation from the Natural History Museum. Before I talk a little bit about that, the Newbacker Award was celebrated. It went to Pam McGinty, who's the chair of that council and has been a longtime advocate for the community. So celebrating that achievement. So the presenters were Brittany Burgess and Todd Behrens. They talked about how the UM Museum of Natural History has moved from the former site in the Ruthven building to the Biological Sciences building. The exhibits have changed, although they assured us that the mastodon skeletons remain. The parts of the discussion that were most relevant to us concerned accessible parking at the Palmer parking structure, accessible drop-off, bus station locations or bus stop locations that are nearby the museum. They seem to have had a very keen eye on accessibility in this new site. There are wheelchairs available for checkout. There are portable stools available for checkout. Although some concerns were expressed about whether the stools would in fact be usable by all members of the community. That seemed like something I personally have not seen or was aware of previously. They highlighted their Please Touch exhibits, which for them was at least partly a nod to other ways to experience an exhibit. They talked about a virtual exhibition they have online about whale evolution, which you can find online. Accessible end seating at the planetarium is now available, and automatic door openers for all galleries. So that is the rundown from the Natural History Museum. I myself am tempted to make a visit in the upcoming months based on.
We should all take a field trip there. Pardon me for the interruption. I think the commission should take a field trip. What do you think?
I would welcome that. Again, they were very attentive to accessibility. It was centered in their renovation, and it kind of pointed out some things that we could all do better in terms of facilities. And it was exciting to see a group that was totally dialed into the concerns of the community and had taken every one of them seriously. So it was a pretty compelling presentation on that basis.
Outstanding. No, it sounds like
Commissioner Solemn. Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, Zach, but my hand doesn't raise so good on this. Two questions. Well, one real question. The other is just a kind of a comment. Question is, where is the biological sciences building? I'm not a U of M guy. Every U of M guy knows this thing, you know.
I believe it's.
But I'm not a U of M guy.
I could get to it. I couldn't tell you what the address is. We can put that in the minutes because I'm sure it'll be easy to look up. It's on Central Campus. I want to say it's on University Avenue, but I would prefer to be precise in my. I don't want to misguide you. One thing to be aware of. One thing to be aware of. There's a call box at the entrance of the building, so they really called out if you have any issues, go to the call box. Someone will be on staff to help. So if you have any issues when you get to the building, use that call box outside. They assured us that it's staffed generally whenever the museum is open. So as soon as we get that address, I'd suggest that those who want to make use of that call box, I think they're there to try and serve.
I think I went there something like 20 or 25 years ago when I was taking a class, and I was taking a biology class at WCC, I believe, and we went up there, and I was impressed. Then they actually let me look at an Archaeopteryx fossil. They let me feel it, and they let me see they had a big Deinonychus up there, but they let me see his claw too, and I was very impressed that I could get that close, and I could look at the allosaur teeth on the skeleton. So if they've improved on that, I'll really like to go up there again.
So one thing they also mentioned is that they have working scientists that are working in that facility. So there's actually a way where you can actually interact with the scientists.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's, again, it seems like ahead of its time in terms of accessibility and interfacing with a broad segment of the public. What they did warn us that the museum was a little bit of an afterthought that kind of got shoehorned into an existing building. So it's not the easiest to navigate, but they definitely are extending a welcoming hand to any resources that are needed to our community in particular.
Oh, nice. I would love interacting with a scientist. I'm sort of a biological guy. So I
Well,
love
and
this.
I'm excited to check out the new seats in the planetarium, folks. I don't know about you guys. Yeah.
Oh, I could do without that, but but I can't see it anymore. I used to love the planetarium when I could see it. I used to go to Abrams up at Michigan State, and I loved it up there.
Nice, nice. Well, yeah, Larry, don't, we'll I believe there'll be something wonderful for everybody. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate it. And thank you. And by the way, I just wanted to mention, congratulations to Pam, by the way, on the award. And I did want to point out to the commission, I had reached out to Pam a while back because, guys, we could have been on that committee, just so you know. And I did put an invitation out a while back for us to be on that committee because they really thought that, one of us from the commission would really benefit from being a part of that and going through that review process. Now, the good thing about this, you guys, is that there's a new year coming up, which means it'll be a new, nominee this coming year. And from what I had heard, they're still interested, in us being a part of that. So I hope that we as a commission can take advantage of that with UM and build that relationship. And excuse me, if any of us can find the time to be on the Newbacher, awards committee, I think that would be something very fruitful for us to be a part of. So, and if anyone is interested, like let me know and see, loop in Commissioner Solomon, absolutely, and then I can help communicate that as well, so that the U of M Council for Disability Concerns can know that we're interested.
Thanks for mentioning that again. I'll definitely keep it in mind. The one thing I could say is it really feels like they got it right this year. So, but thanks for bringing that up, reminding us that we do have a seat at that table if we would like to take advantage of it.
Sure. Absolutely. I think the bridge between the U of M Council for Disability Concerns and Kodai, should be strong. And I appreciate you, Matthew, as well as Kathleen for your work in the past as well, in keeping that bridge going. So hopefully that can be built in the future. Thank you both.
And just a reminder that those meetings are totally open to the public. They're totally online. It's 1 hour a month. Just in case, of course, you'll get these reports, but in case you're interested, very easy to access those meetings if you should be interested.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next, I wanted to see if Laura Orter was on for the organizational equity report. Is our director of organizational equity on with us at this time?
He is not, so Tracy will be doing the report. And Tracy.
Okay. Yeah, Tracy, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Zach, and Commission. Thank you for having me here this evening. Just kind of wanted to give you a rundown. I had my notes right here. I've now been at the city for a little over a month. So what I've been doing some of the things I've been doing this last month is I started doing a tour of the facilities and parks as part of the transitional plan. Just kind of seeing the depth and the scope of the work that needs to be done to get them compliant or accessible. You had the nail on the head when you'd stated, I forget which commissioner, I apologize, had stated that we want more than just being compliant. We want to be inclusive for every single person in the community. But I've also been reaching out to many organizations. Thank you, Commissioner Gossage and your staff for meeting with me at Disability Network. And I've been in contact and working with WISD and the DDA and Neutral Zone, as well as the Washington Association for Community Advocacy. And I've been also attended the Human Rights Commission. and trying to familiarize myself with other commissions, like also the Transportation Commission. I listened to their meeting that took place on the 18th, and Larry and other commissioners, it was PEAK. PEAK stands for Program to Educate All Cyclists. And they do actually have an office in Ypsilanti. I'm very familiar with their program and have worked with Mr. Waterman and a lot of his students over the years, that he teaches people with disabilities how to ride bicycles and bicycle and pedestrian safety, in which I actually reached out to him just a couple of days ago as well. Again, wanting to create a lot of meaningful, not just networking, but meaningful connections with people, so all voices are brought to the table when things like parking spots are developed, or more bike lanes, so we can bring it to the commission, so you guys have a seat at that table. So that's all I have from this side. But thank you. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Tracy. Definitely appreciate all of your efforts and all of your work. Very familiar with the Washington Association for Community Advocacy. The work Kathy Holman and all of the individuals there are doing is outstanding. And so hopefully that was a positive experience for you. And thank you also for the work that you did with the parks. The commission has done some communications with Parks and Rec in the past to ensure that the architects that are to update these parks do so in an effective manner. And again, they are not just compliant, but they are indeed accessible and equitable for all that use the public parks. So do appreciate that effort as well. I know we have a hand up. Commissioner Chambers, you had a comment.
Yeah, just a quick question. First of all, thank you so much for that information and for being here. The organization that you mentioned specifically with teaching people with disabilities to ride bicycles, I was just wondering, for my own information, is that children and adults? And is it both like physical and cognitive disabilities?
Yes, to both questions. If you just Google PEAC, PEAC, or John Waterman, you can find their information. I might actually have it up. No, I do not. I took it off. But yeah, if you just Google PEAC in Washtenaw County, they did start in Wayne County. And I actually met John, I think about 10 years ago, whenever I was the mobility service coordinator at the ride. Actually, that was one of my very first outreaches. I actually rode the buses with he and his students. So he teaches, travel training as well. So on public transportation.
Great, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And I want to go back to Zach. I know that, or excuse me, Chair, that I know that you all were very instrumental in the planning with the contractor, the consultant for the parks. I do not want as the commission, I do not want it to end here. I will be looking towards you and to you for guidance as we start this process. Mm-hmm. So I want us to continue to work together on this.
Yes. And may I emphasize the full commission on that as well. I'd really like the full commission to have input on this as well. And, we're all intelligent minds and we're all, individuals who are impacted by this. So absolutely. And, commissioners, I welcome your input. Once Tracy comes in that process and hopefully we can all be in that together. So, thank you so much, Tracy. I do appreciate it. Please give our best to Laura, by the way.
I will. Thank you. And I will be attending in place of Laura, the commission meetings. I'm sure that they will be attending some, but it's on my agenda to be at your monthly meetings.
Okay, so to clarify, you'll be attending regularly on Laura's behalf, or she will also be attending?
On her behalf.
Oh, okay.
So I will be the person from the Department of Organizational Equity
Great.
that will
Great.
be attending.
Sure. But I will make sure to still be in contact with her regularly to make sure that,
Absolutely.
if there's anything that needs to be done, we are informed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next, we have the city personnel report with Kennedy.
Hello, everyone. Just a quick reporting kind of a report still in progress. The city of Ann Arbor is still searching for a police chief. The city is finalizing the search for police chief candidates, so there will be more information and details and updates to come. And there are no additional city personnel reports or update at this time.
All right, thank you. And excited to really hear about that process as well, folks. In terms of who is indeed selected. By the way, I believe there's also going to be a period for meet and greet with those potential candidates. So if I am made aware of that, when that is, I will let all of you know. And I hope that if you have the time at some point to come to that meet and greet, as soon as I get that information and send it to all of you, that whoever is available can also attend on behalf of the commission to speak with those candidates. Thank you, Kennedy. All right. Next, we have the chair report. So I guess that's where I say some things here. I will be brief, but I wanted to mention one of the things I wanted to mention is that we did have a working session recently to talk about website accessibility. And Tracy joined us. Thank you so much to Tracy Bird for joining us and for your input. Commissioner Chambers as well, and Commissioner Packard, thank you also for joining and for your input. And Kennedy, thank you so much also for taking record of what was talked about at that meeting in terms of suggestions. I think there was a lot of good suggestions in terms of accessibility that still can be made, not just to our section of the website, but to the city web presence as a whole. So I encourage all of you, if you did receive that information from Kennedy, please look it over. And then if there are additions that you would like to make to that in terms of, I really think this would be helpful in terms of organization or in terms of accessibility on our page, please let us know. One of the other things that I hope can be kind of done, in the coming year is a Kodai newsletter for those in the community. So obviously we are in the forefront. We're working on these things and we're aware. But believe it or not, there have been community members, I'm glad to say, that inquired about a Kodai newsletter in terms of the things that we're doing, the things that we're working on, and how can they stay informed, more often. So I had suggested maybe a newsletter. I know that other commissions do that. I just, think it might be a good idea. But again, if any of you have additional ideas on what we could do to keep the public informed about the work of Kodai, please let us know. And then also, I had expressed some interest on the importance of social media. I know that, it's not necessarily like, super prevalent in terms of the cerebral work that we do. But I think having a social media presence, as a commission can also help us in many ways. It can help us with recruitment. But again, it can also help keep the community informed as we are more and more on our phones and laptops and things of that sort. I think having a Kodai social media presence might be helpful. But I also wanted, on that point, I wanted to kind of mention that maybe it's beneficial at our next meeting if we talk about creating a social media subcommittee that can, assist with, creating those social media accounts and maybe helping to maintain them. I'm hoping to make contact, with the city to see what kind of assistance we can get with that, because I know that social media can be, taxing and definitely a chore. But I'd love to hear any suggestions that you guys have on that. And, if you are in support of creating some social media accounts, such as an Instagram, a Facebook page, a Twitter, that sort of thing. And then we can have those links on our page as well so that people can follow. But that's what I have thus far on the chair report. Commissioner Solomon, you have a question?
I just wanted to reiterate the question about whether there are or are not city resources to support such an endeavor. Is there some type of precedent within other committees? Obviously, it's a big thing for visibility, but it's also a question of resource allocation. So I think that would be a question I would love to hear the answer to.
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I can tell you right now that I'm not sure myself. So I'm going to find out. What I'm actually going to do, you guys, is I'm going to reach out to the city communications person, Leisha Wandrosh, and I'm going to say, hey, how is this done, with other commissions? Can you assist with this, or are we on our own for this? And then once we can find out whether, we get assistance or if we're on our own, then maybe we can go the next steps there. So hopefully, I know that doesn't answer your question right away, Matthew, but I promise you, I'm going to inquire. So as soon as I do, all of you will be on that correspondence, and hopefully we can all have answers.
And maybe it's related to the role of Tracy and Laura Orta. I'm just possibly.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a good point as well. Maybe I can bring that up to Laura. Tracy, I know you're still on the line. I mean, maybe that's something that we can all work together on in terms of, promoting, city AZA resources and accessibility, and have it be something that is not taxing, but rather informative and something that's needed. So I can definitely talk more about that as well. Thank you, Matthew. All right. Next we have the city council update, but council member Ghazi Edwin is not on the line with us, correct, Kennedy?
That is correct.
Okay. So then we can move on we don't have any old business at this time.
No old business on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. So new business. 2024, you guys, 2024 calendars are printed and here. Pretty crazy. Our 2024 is rapidly approaching. So I wanted to see if we were able to approve the 2024 calendars for the Commission on Disability Issues, as well as the 2024 calendars for the Partners in Access subcommittee. I didn't know if anyone had, checked out those calendars, looked at the dates, had any issues on them at all. But please, if there is a motion to approve these calendars and all of us have no issue, is there a motion to approve?
Point of order.
Hold on.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead.
Point of order. I did want to reference that for the CODI meeting in June 19th is when it would be, but that is a federal holiday. The city of Ann Arbor will be closed. So the commission would then need to vote either to cancel that meeting or to reschedule it for a different day that month.
Understood. Okay. Are we
Other thing I'd like to mention before we go is for the PIA, I'd like to change the day from Wednesday to any other day.
Okay.
I'd like to try to change that to either a Tuesday or maybe a Thursday would be good. We could keep it at the same time if that needs to be, but I'd like to just change the day because it happens that my Wednesdays are very busy usually. And if I want to be a part of this, which I do.
Got it.
I'd sort of like to change the date, change the date to it.
Okay.
So then just for
go ahead.
Just for clarity, if the commission votes to change the day of the Partners and Access Committee meetings, then the calendar that is on the agenda today would be void. And so we would not vote on the calendar for the Partners and Access Committee today. That calendar would need to be voted on and approved in December.
But we could vote on the other calendar, correct?
Yep, you would be able to vote on the commission calendar, but the subcommittee calendar would then be pushed for approval in December.
Understood. Well, first of all, how does everybody feel about the calendar and the June date? Do we feel that we should cancel that entire June meeting, or should we look at another date and see what works? Kathleen, you have your hand up.
Go ahead.
So for me, we are off July and August, so I'm not comfortable canceling the June meeting. I think that we would be better served to reschedule it, but I'd also like to hear what others think. But I think a 3-month hiatus might be too much.
I agree. And that's just my
Mr.
opinion.
Chair?
Any other feedback there?
Commissioner Hawkins?
Mr. Chair? Oh, go ahead.
Yes. So I was just going to say that I agree that I think that would be a very long break. I did want to respond to Larry's question. I could do Thursday, but not Tuesday. So if Alex can do Thursday, then maybe we can regroup with Kennedy on the dates.
Okay.
That would work. And when it comes to it, I have a motion.
Point of order, before we approve that motion for the June meeting, would you guys like to reschedule it for the week before the holiday or the week after the holiday?
That's where my motion might come in. I was thinking that since we have such a long time between meetings, then that moving it the week after, because then we could prepare for, I think that's the 26th of June. We could prepare for all that and close out before the hiatus. We have a week longer to close out before the hiatus.
That's
and so
correct,
my
yep.
motion would be that we move the meeting to the 26th of June. I think that's it, isn't it? Isn't it the 26th?
That's correct. Yep.
Of course, if I move this, then it would be open for discussion. So,
correct.
May I make the motion, or is there any other discussion before we do it?
Go ahead.
I move that the June 19th meeting be reset to June 26th of June 26th. What, 1 week?
June 26th.
Ahead or behind? Yeah, 1 week off.
Okay, June 26th. Okay.
I second the motion.
I second.
Okay, you second? Okay. So, okay, all in favor of moving the June 19th meeting to June 26th, please unmute and say aye.
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 Okay. Okay, great. That is
And Kennedy will get revised invitations based on that change. Is that correct,
Yep.
Kennedy?
So what will happen is in the meeting minutes, I will put, once you guys vote on the calendar, I will put noted that the June 19th meeting has been rescheduled to the June 26th meeting. So once you guys approve the calendar, that will be updated in the minutes, and then the calendar will be sent out and updated. So Chair Damon, you are, Vice Chair Keeler, yes?
I have another question. Do we want to vote then on having on changing the calendar for next month to register the second Thursday of the month at 5 p.m.?
What was your question?
Do we want to vote on changing the time or the day for the PIA meeting?
well, Larry, this is Zach. I'd like us to vote on the full commission calendar first and then move.
Okay. Okay, well, I didn't know if we were able to do that or not, but we can do that.
Okay, thank you. So really quickly, guys, so all in favor of approving the commission calendar for 2024, obviously pending that update, but do all the other dates work for everyone? Is this calendar satisfactory with that addition of moving the 19th through the 26th? And, is there the motion to approve the full commission calendar for 2024?
You may, if I may clarify, you may approve the calendar with changes, which would be the change from the June 19th to the June 26th. So you
Right.
may have a motion to approve the calendar with changes.
Right. That's exactly right. Thank you. So yeah, do I have a motion to approve the calendar with changes? Kathleen, you have a question?
No, actually, I just was going to make the motion to approve the calendar for next
Great.
year for the CODI with the change of the June meeting to the following week.
Great. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second that. Nope, 2 seconds.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor of the calendar with the change, please unmute and say aye.
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 All right. Thank you. Now, Larry, go ahead. You had a comment about the Partners and Access Committee calendar.
Now, the reason I brought that up too is because I was thinking about next month in particular, and my I would move that we have the committee meeting second Thursday of the month here at 5 p.m.
Okay. Does that work for the other members of Partners in Access at this time?
Yes, that should work. That should work just fine for me. It's Rachel.
This is Alex. Yeah, that should work for me as well.
Okay. Okay. So with that, Larry, you're making a motion to move the date of that meeting.
Yes, the second Thursday of the month instead of second Wednesday.
Okay. All right. I'll move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right. All in favor of moving the Partners in Access Committee meeting from its current date to Thursday now, please unmute and say aye.
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 All right. Thank you.
And
Okay.
so I will put on the December meeting a new calendar for the Partners in Access Subcommittee for 2024 for approval.
Thank you, Kennedy.
Hello.
All right. Next, I'd like to move down to communications. Do we have any communications at this time? Okay. No communications? Well, then with that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn at 5:36 p.m.
I'll second.
All right, Larry seconds. All in favor of adjournment of today's November Commission on Disability Issues meeting, please unmute and say aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned, everyone. Thank you so much for all of your efforts and feedback. As always, I will do my best to be as open as possible with all of you. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you need anything, and please keep up the great work. Thank you.